Hi guys and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So for today guys, we'll be checking out the happening in terms of YGG Events. And this one guys, we have here attorney, okay, Kelvin Lesterly talking about regulating for innovation. So let's dive into this conversation during the YGG Events. Let's go!
Let's dive right into it. You've been in this role 4 years now, roughly?
This would be my fifth year.
Okay, so what's your big takeaway? Is it really possible to regulate tech while creating safer spaces to innovate, so to speak? And more importantly, do we have the capacity to do so?
Capacity, yes, definitely. This is something that very important to the SEC. It's very important for regulators. That of course we regulate and create a safe space for the Filipino investors here. So precisely why we've been working so hard at this. I don't know if you're familiar with the SEC. We've been issuing advisories. For those who don't know, the SEC is the Securities and Exchange Commission. We are the investments regulators. We are also the business registrar here in the Philippines. And part of our function is enforcement, investor protection. That's one of our primary mandates. And as a result of which, we've come up with multiple advisories, warning the public, for instance, not to invest in particular platforms that are not registered with the SEC. And that's very important to us, precisely because we want to create a safe space for people to be able to invest here in the Philippines. As to your question, whether or not it's possible to regulate this space without stifling innovation, we're trying. No, the financial regulators, myself, the BSP, the SEC, the BSP, the Insurance Commission, we have something called the Financial Sector Forum where we meet regularly, and there's a fintech committee there that focuses on how to swap stories and discuss how to regulate. So we're trying. Is it possible? I want to say yes. Is it challenging, naman? Yes.
It's possible, but we're not there yet, is what you're saying.
It's possible. We're working in that direction. There are multiple regulations already there. But at the end of the day, I think we all want the same thing. We want a thriving Philippines, a thriving economy, and our position is that we can only get a space like that if we make it safe for the investors to be able to safely and easily invest. And that's the end goal, I think, for all of us.
I'll get to your point about collaboration a little bit, but I want to unpack first the point about the advisories. I feel like it'll be, if people understood the thought process that goes behind it, regulation then becomes less intimidating to everyone, right? So walk us through the process, of how you issue advisories or rules. Where does the idea generally come from? Do all the commissioners need to get aligned? And how do you then issue it?
Okay. We have multiple offices in the SEC. One is the Enforcement and Investor Protection Department, and one is the Fintech Innovation Office. One is focused on enforcement, one is focused on fintech. Now, for the purpose of this discussion, I'll focus on those two. So, generally, these offices get reports, or they are able to find on their own touchy or questionable, for instance, investments, touchy or questionable issues that pop up under their jurisdiction. And so this generates an investigation internally, and it goes through a process of confirmation, checking if the laws apply, and things like that, before an advisory is created by the department involved or office involved, and then they submit it to either to me or the supervising commissioner for enforcement, for instance. I handle fintech. I'm not strictly enforcement, but because of the overlap, sometimes I have to go into that. And then when it comes to our office, to the particular supervising commissioner, we then endorse it for discussion among the NBank. What is the NBank? Essentially, there are 4 commissioners and 1 chairman. We meet as a collegial body, so it's like a board. And then from there, whatever submission is made, we vote. We decide as a group, collegially, whether or not that advisory or that cease and desist order or that raid will happen. We usually vote unanimously. We try to avoid outward signs of outward signs of tension. And I'm happy to say that this system has been effective in the sense that we've had multiple advisories that have been fully supported by everyone at the commission.
But what happens when there are disagreements?
We thresh it out. We talk about it.
You hash it out
we hash it
until
out.
you get to a
until we come
point.
to a agreement among the 5 of us. As I mentioned, very rare for us for this iteration of the commission to have dissenting opinions. So we work together. And generally, the commission, the way it's set up, the commission refers to the supervising commissioner or the commissioner with expertise. For instance, if it's a fintech related topic, they more often than not defer to me for my position or for my recommendation. And then from there, we vote accordingly. If it's enforcement, then it goes to the chair. The chair is the one who makes a recommendation. Then we vote accordingly, as may be applicable.
Right, because you're known to be a huge advocate for the industry,
Yes,
and you're
yes.
actually quite forward-looking. Are your co-commissioners the same? Do you feel like they're headed in the same
They
direction?
are headed in the same direction. They're also very open-minded. They're also very forward-looking. I think the only differentiating factor is that some of the other commissioners are not as embedded in the industry. I've made it a point ever since I assumed as commissioner. I wanted to get a better feel for this particular field so that we could regulate it more properly. And I think the industry has noticed, not just the Web3 industry, but the industry as a whole, that I speak very regularly to industry. I do try to listen. And then I can then parlay that into policy later on.
It's definitely a delicate balance, right, what you do. And where have you gone? Which country have you looked at, or which entity have you looked at for inspiration? Or where have you gone where you thought, hey, that's a great idea, let's copy that?
Singapore is one. I speak to my counterparts in Singapore very often, MAS. I speak also to the UK FCA, that's also my counterparts there. There have been certain regulations that we followed, that we emulated from theirs, among other things. I even met with the Lord Mayor of London one time in the UK, who also gave me some advice on how to regulate. So we do keep an open mind, we do listen to others. But one thing that's consistent among all of us is that we try to listen to industry. We try. When I say industry, I mean the people who make up the space. And generally, by the way, for the record, generally we don't talk to industry on a one-to-one basis. We prefer to speak to industry groups. One example of that would be the organization that invited me here, the Web3 organization, the Web3 group, that asked me to speak here today. So it's much easier for us to be able to speak properly with them if it's from an industry group, because it's not biased. It speaks for the industry rather than one particular company and then we would then focus on their particular issues. So it's much easier if there's a particular group for us.
I mean, certainly it's not a one-way street, right? It has to be a collaborative process. But how do we ensure that everyone's interests, particularly the Web3 gamers, are represented at the table? Right? You talked about dialogues, but are these institutionalized? Do you hold them regularly? Does everyone get a seat at the table all the time?
That's the thing, no? Admittedly, there is a need to try to institutionalize that feedback mechanism like this. I think I'm currently one of the few commissioners that makes an effort, one of the few regulators that makes an effort to reach out to industry and speak to them fairly regularly. You can ask one of the organizers here, Atty. Nathan Marasigan. He speaks to me on behalf of industry, on behalf of the Web3 industry very often, because he tries to bring it up. He tries to bring up the issues of the industry, among others, to me. Yes, I personally believe there's a need to institutionalize it a little more, but at the same time, scheduling is a challenge. So it behooves upon the industry to try to make an effort as well to reach out to me or to reach out to the regulators. I guess what's one thing I want to mention, Ma'am Regina, is that we're not scary, or at least we try not to be scary.
He looks scary to you. He's so friendly.
I get it, naman. I get it that SEC, BSP, these other regulators, we look and sound scary because of the authority and the powers that we have. And of course, sometimes the enforcement of our powers can be scary. But at the end of the day, remember that we're humans as well. We're Filipino citizens as well. We want the same thing as you. We want a safe space for you to be able to operate well. And of course, how can you operate well if the industry itself, if the space itself looks like it's unruly, unwieldy, illegal lahat, So we don't want that. So I guess if there's one thing you want to take away from this today is that work with us. We do want the same thing that you do, a vibrant, thriving economy. And the best way to do it is through collaboration. My lesson ever since I got into government is that a lot of the best initiatives, a lot of the best happenings happen because it's a collaboration between private and public sector. And I hope to see roughly the same thing here for this particular industry.
And actually, I would go so far as to say you need them as much as they need you. You need the industry feedback, right? Because nobody regulates in a vacuum. You can't just, hash out rules out of thin air without listening to what's happening on the ground.
We try not to, no? We try not to. That's why, for instance, we have consultations. If I may bring up, for instance, there's if you're familiar with the VASP rules of the BSP, We have something similar coming out called the Digital Asset Security Service Provider Rules. Once upon a time, this used to be the Digital Asset Offering Rules draft that we issued. We will issue that sometime this year for public consultation. Why public consultation? As Ma'am Regina alluded to, we want you to give us feedback as well. Will that particular set of rules crush the industry, for instance? That's not the intention. The intention of the rules is for it to regulate the field and make it a safe space. So, but we would need you to tell us what you think of it as well. So please, if anyone is interested in that space, wait for those rules. That's coming up very, very soon for public consultation, for public comment.
And then how long is the consultation period? How long is it open for feedback?
Generally, we give it 2 weeks to a month if it's fairly simple. For something as complex as this, I think I want to try and give it a month or more. But let's see. That will be subject for discussion in a few weeks from now, I think, if I remember correctly based on my schedule.
And then work me through the SOP. So let's say you collate all of these feedback. Who looks at it? I guess you have a team that's looking into it, filtering out what's legitimate feedback or not, and then that goes to the commissioners.
Correct. So after that, the draft goes to the department handling it. It's the Market Securities Regulation Department that handles capital markets and certain aspects of fintech and security. So that's also under me. And then after they go through that particular process, they review the comments and then make adjustments to the rules as necessary. And then resubmit it to me for my approval. And then from there, we present it to the commission and bank for a final go-through. And then it will be implemented. I'm foreseeing that we'll implement this particular set of rules, subject to industry consultation, of course, sometimes Q2, Q3, if ever.
Of next year.
Next year. Not this year. Obviously, I don't want people to work over Christmas. I think none of us want to really work over Christmas.
Let's talk about specific platforms for a sec. The spectacular collapse of FTX, right, has been analyzed and covered by everyone and their dog. I was wondering if you could give me a better sense of the kind of discussions that you and other people in government have had about it, right? Did it scare you? Or did it just, you just generally took it in stride?
We didn't take it in stride. Okay, quick side story. Before the FTX thing happened, there was actually a delegation of FTX people who were flying in from Singapore or Hong Kong, I forget, to come see me. I think at the time there was an intention for them to create and roll out FTX here in the Philippines. Funnily enough, the day they were scheduled to fly in was the same day that whole FTX collapse happened. So it was hilarious. I got an email from them saying that, Commissioner, can we reset our proposed courtesy call and meeting to discuss FTX platform? I didn't reply because at the back of my head I was thinking, yeah, we're not gonna reschedule. I don't see that happening. You're all gonna be looking for jobs very soon, and I was right. See, that collapsed. On the point of FTX, the original draft of the rules was actually ready for public launch last year. Of the rules I was mentioning, the DASSP, we held it back precisely because of FTX. Because the lesson there was that it looks like the original draft of our rules, which was much more accommodating, was not adjusting to the realities that FTX was bringing upon us. So if there's one thing that FTX has taught us, it is we need to be a little more stringent to help ensure people are safe. Because a lot of people lost money in FTX. I had multiple meetings with my Singaporean counterparts talking about it, and they couldn't publicly discuss it that elaborately, but clearly a lot of Singaporeans were affected. I spoke to the UK Trade Minister about it as well, Trade Commissioner about it as well, and she was telling me that the UK people, a lot of UK citizens also lost a lot of money. I was told that we weren't that affected here because FTX was not as popular here at the time. But imagine if that had happened, if FTX had rolled out more efficiently here. The repercussions for our people would have been horrible. We were actually very actively monitoring that along with all these other banks that were collapsing at the time.
I mean, Temasek, the sovereign wealth fund lost a lot of money, and there's one of the most sophisticated wealth funds in the world, right?
A lot of the investment managers are my friends. So for the sake of Singapore-Philippine committee and good relations, I won't comment on that matter. But I have been informed.
Listen, no one's faulting them. We're just saying that it's quite the market can be unpredictable. That's all we're saying.
Correct.
And so you took away some lessons from that.
Oh, yes. The current draft that will be coming out soon will reflect a lot of the lessons from the FTX. experience.
Give me a couple more.
What do you mean?
A couple more the lessons that you took away that you're going to work into your
In
own
relation to
advisories.
FAX?
Right.
We don't like anymore, we were really not comfortable anymore with unregistered platforms, for instance. No? I guess moving forward, that's why we have so many of these advisories that have been coming out, specifically saying we're not allowed to operate unless you have the particular registration here at the Philippines, in the SEC or the BSP, as may be applicable. So.
The SEC has actually done a lot of initiatives over the past few years to open the doors wide for investors, both locally and internationally, to make it easier to do business here. And the proof point is that last year you had a record number of company registrations. Talk us through that.
Very, very quickly, just to wrap up, I guess. No? Essentially, the Philippine SEC has gone through a process of digitalizing a lot of our services. So a lot of our company registration processes, for instance, is now online. eSmart, OneSec, we have fancy names for them. Essentially, you can incorporate the company as quickly as 15 minutes. We in fact showed the president around June, when he came to visit and inaugurate our new building, that an incorporation of a foundation that he created, that someone from Mindanao created, took only 15 minutes something seconds, 30, 40 seconds. And the only reason it took that long was because at the time there was spotty internet because the guy was in Bukidnon. So we logged, and we are very happy to say that our company registration process is much more easy now, and this has led to a lot of...
It took it from several months to just...
Before, in 2019 or so, when I first came in, company registrations would take roughly 3 months. We were able to knock it down to around 3 days or so for the very, very basic ones. The super basic templated ones, meaning you make no changes in the basic templates we offer you, can be done in minutes, literally. No, it depends on how fast you type. And because of this set of reforms we have created, we have worked on, we've had historical highs of incorporation. We from 600 incorporations a month, we're now averaging 2,000 to 3,000 new companies in a month. This year is a record high, where we have like 47, 48,000 new businesses, new incorporations this year. We're looking at our estimate should be 50,000 new companies this year for 2023, and that is unheard of. What does that mean? There is a lot of interest, there's a lot of optimism in people to do business here in the Philippines. And I guess one thing I'd like you also to take away from this is that please do invest, do work in this particular space. No? There's a lot of room for growth there. If anything, things like this, events like this show us that there's a lot of interest in the new technology, the new economy, among other things. I hope that helps.
There you go. The SEC is rolling out the red carpet for you guys. Listen, we're being told we're out of time, but we wanted to end on a fun note, so just very quickly, what was the first game you ever played?
First game I ever played? Okay, I'm dating myself, no? If you're familiar with Mario Brothers.
Of course, I'm also familiar with Mario Brothers.
The very first Mario Brothers. Can I just, quick story. I don't know if you're familiar with the Super NES and the Mario RPG, Super Mario RPG. Okay, Super Mario RPG was a game that came out years back when I was still in high school, I think, or grade school, I forget now. And I never got it for myself because at the time my mom wouldn't buy it for me. So I never played that game. Turns out, and in case you don't know, they released it again on the Nintendo Switch just last week. So I just bought it last week. I think it was just delivered the other day. I don't know when I'll find time to play the damn thing, but it's there. And I'm so happy it's there. I just don't know when I'll play it. Yeah, but I wanted to make sure I bought it because I was told it was very popular, so I was worried that it gets sold out. So I just wanted to stay.
Okay, last one. Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars, definitely.
I thought I was going to have to debate you for that.
Good connect.
Okay, I think, we're being told we're out of time. Sorry about that, but hopefully that was very useful to you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Calvin, for treating this amazing one that is